Yeah, it's pathetic. I mean, if you think that you can make a decision on such short notice, yeah, you. I think they're desperate at this point, and I think they really don't want to say that the World Championships are not able to be done.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the Cyclocross Social Podcast. Today I'm joined by Issam,
Hey,
and we will be talking about the biggest news in the cyclocross world, and there's really no way we can go around it. The biggest news here of the recent week is that the World Cup in Zonhoven has been cancelled, and they aren't the first one, because before already Kokzijde, Briançon, Zonhoven, Diegem, Villars, Hogerheide, Dublin and Waterloo got cancelled. So Zonhoven got cancelled. Issam, what do you think?
well, I mean it's another race which goes out. It's a very fun race, Zonhoven. Unfortunately, that it has to go like this, but it's in these times it's going to be a normal thing in the end that races will be cancelled, because if they are not able to do it financially, or they are not really sure if they can do it, if they can organize such a race, then they would just cancel it or postpone it. It's a shame to see that happening.
Indeed, and especially because it's Zonhoven. Zonhoven, personally, one of my favorite races, with the, of course, super famous sandpit that they go in. A real shame to see it go. One of the real classic races that in a short time it got such a great status inside the cyclocross world. However, the UCI, they haven't been doing nothing. They've announced a new calendar starting with Tabor on the 29th of November, and then they have Namen on 20 December, Dendermonde, a new race on the 27th of December, and then in January they have Hulst and Overijse. What do you think of this new calendar?
Well, happy that they at least have now a new calendar, a provisional calendar, of course. But you have to question if this calendar is going to be the new way, and if this is really going to happen. Because for me personally, there is not really a plan behind this calendar. They have actually just put all the organizers that didn't cancel it so far put together, put some new dates on it, and said, okay, we're just going to do a new World Cup calendar.
Yeah, they just rearranged the dates of the races that weren't cancelled, you're right. But you already said it, that haven't been cancelled yet, because I already see the first race, it's Tabor. Well, Czech Republic went into a lockdown today to at least 3 November, which is 2 weeks from now. Judging by the rest of the situation we have seen from lockdowns, we can expect it to be extended by at least 2 more weeks. And then, I mean, you're already coming pretty close to Tabor, and I think that they probably, if Czech Republic extends the lockdown, Tabor will say, well, maybe we can be after the lockdown, but it's just 2 or 3 days after the lockdown ends, we're not taking the risk, and they also jump out, and then you're only left with 4 races, and is it a real World Cup? Is there real, if you win this World Cup, have you really won the World Cup, or have you just gotten lucky?
Well, yeah, maybe you have. Question is if this World Cup is really going to be in the end a classification. Really is going to have a classification with only five races, 6 races. No, it's only 5. If you have only 5 races, it's not really. You cannot really call it a classification, in my opinion. But it's not really a smart idea to start your calendar with Czech Republic, who is going in a full lockdown, and thinking, well, we have a new provisional calendar, and just show off with it. This is how I see it, at least. It's not really smart, I guess.
No, I tend to agree on that. And I mean, if we take a look more at Tabor is already a cross that is known to be in a financial. I mean, their financial situation wasn't easy. Last year, they didn't seem to be able to even make the step to the new World Cup. At the end, they did make it. But don't forget, Tabor has already been gone from the calendar for a few years. Do you think that the same could happen if Tabor misses out this year?
The fact that they didn't cancel it so far, or didn't postpone it, or they did postpone it, of course, but they didn't cancel it, means that they maybe, they really need to organize this race. And indeed, if it's not going to happen, It might be that Tabor is in very difficult situations financially, of course, and maybe we won't see them again for a couple of years, and that will be really a shame because it's a really iconic race. It's a race which has been for a long time in cyclocross with a lot of history. So let's just hope that either the race go through or financially they will make it to next year.
Yeah, hopefully indeed they can make through, because I mean the last couple of years Tabor hasn't provided the greatest of racing, but it is a great name on the calendar, and especially if you put Tabor where it belongs, somewhere in January, you will always have snow there and you will always have a fun race. But the rest of the races on the calendar, Namen, Dendermonde, Hulst and Overijse, they are all in Belgium or the Netherlands. I wonder if these can stay on there. Belgium is also tightening the rules on the level of corona, but in the end, if those races fall, then probably we can forget the entire cyclocross calendar, because if these World Cups go, you can bet that some super prestige races and DVV, or we should maybe call it X2O badkamers now, but we'll talk about that later. Those races will probably be likely to fall as well.
Probably yes, but the thing is, and I think that's really also a thing which is happening right now. The reputation of a World Cup is a little bit higher than the reputation of those smaller races. So I think that a World Cup will not take that many risks in Corona cases, while like a smaller organization would be like, okay, well, if I have 1 or 2 cases, it's not that bad, and I can just continue and organize my races. Maybe it's how they are looking into it, and we might see that the Super Prestige and indeed the X2O badkamers, what is it? Help me with that.
X2O badkamer trophy.
Yeah, beautiful. So the previous DVV trophy, which goes as a classification on time. But you know, I think that the smaller organizers will probably take some more risks and try, of course, within the law, try to organize a race.
Yeah, well, something that definitely isn't a small organization is the World Cup the World Championships even in Ostend this year. And the UCI and the organizers, they both did some media this week, and the World Cup of the World Championships, I really need to say World Championships in Ostend, with the big bridge. They've said that the UCI have said that they are going to make the decision if it can continue 3 weeks before the start. 3 weeks, come on. How is that even possible?
Yeah, it's pathetic. I mean, if you think that you can make a decision on such short notice, I think they're desperate at this point, and I think they really don't want to say that the World Championships are not able to be done. And I just hope that there will be some person in that organization that will say, okay, maybe we should think about a way to do this, because there is, at this point, they don't have a plan. They're just suggesting that they're going to look into the situation 3 weeks before the race. It's not looking good. I hope they can come with a plan and just try to do something.
Yeah, and I agree. What's the most concerning in the interview is that the organization said the main point of concern is safety. If the World Championships would be held today, because of the current rules against the coronavirus, there's a maximum of 400 people allowed, and that is not possible because in a scenario where there aren't any rules, they would have 70 to 80,000 people each day, and a bunch of VIPs as well, and they are openly questioning how many safety measures they would need to take, how much that would cost, and how you would make sure that there aren't other gatherings in Ostend which they are at the end of the day responsible for. And then they say, are there any other possibilities? Well, that's up to the UCI is what they say, and the UCI, they haven't really said anything on the cyclocross for the time being. Nothing that they're going to step in, and maybe that's what they should do. Or do you think different?
No, I mean the way the UCI is standing with cyclocross is really weird, because like you said, they're not showing that much of their plans. I was already shocked that they announced the new calendar for the World Cups. I mean, I didn't expect that because they don't show anything. They don't share any info with us. But I think that if you look to the mountain bike, which is a close ally, I would say for cyclocross, you can really see that how they managed to do that last part of the season with twice going in Novo Mesto, having a bubble, testing everybody who is in that, who is going to take part in that event, the mechanics, everybody, and then just do the World Cups, and you finish the season, you're done. I think UCI really should take notes from that because it worked pretty well. I didn't hear any cases in the mountain bike. Maybe you can correct me on that, but I don't think there were any cases, and if there were, I didn't hear them.
I didn't hear
Um,
any either.
yeah, so I think that's the successful way of organizing a world championship and races before that.
And
And
even if there were positive cases, I mean, it's not the end of the world. You can quarantine, and it's better to have, like, for every race now, I think everyone needs to provide a negative COVID test as well. So basically, like what they did in NBA, they made this bubble in Disney World,
yeah,
and they played there. And I mean, this World Cup, let's say Tabor falls and Hulst falls, or even if just Tabor falls, you can't have a World Cup of 4 races. It's just no. It's organized by Flanders Classics. Flanders Classics also organizes a bunch of other races. Maybe, just maybe, they should just take some of their super prestige races, put them in the World Cup, and then sit around the table with these Etias crosses and say, guys, it's a hard time for cyclocross. You guys are going to organize, but you're not counting for anything. Why don't you just keep your sponsors? We add some extra money from our sponsors, and then this is the new calendar for the Super Prestige. And if you need some extra World Cup races just before the World Championships, or maybe even after the World Championships, because it's a strange season, make a closed location where like everybody comes to, and they just race against each other for 4 weeks, and then at the end you have the Cyclocross World Championships, and everybody can ride in a safe environment. But at the end of the day, it all comes down to money. But personally, I think the UCI has plenty of money.
Indeed, I think they have plenty of money, and so far this is the first plan I really hear, which is already better than the UCI has come up with, which is nothing. But they have to think about something, and having 5 races, maybe even 4, if another race is going to get cancelled during a World Cup, is not really good for cyclocross. A World Cup is the pinnacle of cyclocross. It has the highest priority if we talk about classifications. And this season so far, nobody even talked about having the World Cup as a goal. Like the Super Prestige and the X2O Badkamers, how do you want to call it, is the priority at this point, because those races give you some sense of security, because they're most of them are going to happen, if not all of them. Like maybe there is going to be some cancelled or postponed, but at least you know that will happen. And the World Cup so far, I mean, Hogerheide is a race that's going to happen in January. It's a very financially healthy organization. They have a very, very good organization indeed, but they canceled it so early. That really worries me, because then I have the feeling that the organizers just didn't help them or didn't facilitate any plans, and they were just like, well, if this is how it's going to be, we just don't do it.
And we already mentioned it earlier in the season preview, this massive fee to even be part of the World Cup cyclocross. It's so much that it's just impossible. Adrie van der Poel said it in an interview that organizing this year was going to cost them an additional 300,000 euros just because of extra safety measures that they would need to take to prevent spectators from standing and watching the race. And then next to that, they also had their entrance fee of, I think, 75,000 or 125,000 euros, something outrageous like that. That's what they need to pay to just be in there. And then the organized cost, it would be something like 700,000 euros in total for them to organize. And I mean, maybe, just maybe, they can put everything they have in that, but then if Corona is still around next year, definitely they're gone, and then probably for good as well. And they don't want that because they have the World Championships for 2024 that are going to be held in Hogerheide. They can't afford to make this loss because then they are going to lose the World Championships there either way.
Yeah, they're looking for the long term, and the long term at this point, you really have to reconsider all your financial plans. And if you don't see any sense of organizing something, you should just cancel it, and cancel it as quickly as possible, because then you won't make the costs you normally would make. Like, for example, the Amstel Gold Race, which should have taken place on the roads, of course, because of the Dutch measurements, they were not able to do that, or they were at least kind of shocked by it. They couldn't do anything with the government, and that was just canceled. I think 2 weeks.
Yeah,
2 weeks
2 weeks.
before the race. And
The
they
Bing Bong
said
Tour
that
got cancelled a night before.
yeah. So the cost that you have made at that point, like security measurements, it's a lot of things which you have to make costs for. And if it just canceled like 2 weeks or even a day before a race, that is just such a low blow. You cannot make up for that financially.
Yes, and the Dutch government. I mean, the Dutch government isn't messing around. They're dead serious in what they say, and it should be a concern to Hulst as well. These measures that are currently in place in the Netherlands, I don't see them disappear. I don't see them disappear between now and January, because this weekend everybody was optimistic that the growth of the cases was only 20% last week, which is still not good, but it's better than the 60% we had before. But today there was another record set, which was 600 cases higher than our old record, and it's definitely not going good. And already there are people warning, saying that these rules need to be implemented at least until the end of February, until the winter goes by. And as long as these things aren't going anywhere, Hulst should be worried, and another race that should be worried is Rosmalen.
Yeah, and that's closer. Like, I mean, for Hulst it's in January, so they still can chill a little bit and then have to decide in the end, I guess. But Rosmalen is coming 7th and 8th of November, if I'm saying it correctly, and that is in pretty short notice, to be honest. So I have to say that's not really looking good for Rosmalen indeed, because the measurements are not going anywhere. I heard 4 weeks. We are already 2 weeks in the Netherlands, and probably after the 4 weeks, it's still going to be there around for a couple of weeks more. And what you said, maybe till February.
And I think that they even are still under the rules that are announced. And for the people who don't know, the rules in the Netherlands currently are that all sports competitions that aren't, I think, fully pro, so that even includes our hockey and baseball, everything basically except our football competitions, they are currently they aren't playing currently. And so maybe, just maybe, Rosmalen can find a way through that. The men elite and women elite race can go through, but for the youth races there's no chance. No spectators allowed, and I think that the gatherings that they fall under is maximum of 30, so it's going to be super complex for them. And they might be working on it, don't get me wrong, but they aren't communicating anything, which is worrying for me.
Yeah, this is not really a good representation of the sport. Cyclocross has this potential of being a very, very big sport internationally as well. We have, of course, these shouts of becoming an Olympic sport, but at the moment, you cannot say that this is a very, very professional way of doing things, especially at the World Cup and the World Championship. With At this point, they still don't have a plan. I mean, postponed calendar, yes, but nothing really is set in stone, and we still don't know what's going to happen. It just shows that the sport really needs to reconsider every single organization, and think about what they have to do in the future to not have these situations at this point.
Indeed, and I think that the fact that they are keeping quiet means that they are in some sort of issue. Maybe they don't want to call it off because then the UEC need to pay the UEC because they're not hosting it, or Maybe it's the other way around. I don't know. But if they were really working on something, I would expect some kind of communique from them. Okay, guys, listen, these are the new rules. We are doing this and this to work on it. We are confident that the races will go on. Or we are not confident that the race will go on. But at the end of the day, it's 2.5 weeks. You better cancel it in time because riders, they are preparing, and the last thing you want is some kind of scenario like Strade Bianchi that it's called off one day before the event starts.
Yeah, you don't want that, and you don't, like I said, it's not giving your sport a good name. You lose interest of people that are just watching. There are a lot of people that are from the road that see Mathieu van der Poel and Van Aert riding on the road, and they're like, "Oh, they do cyclocross. Let me watch cyclocross." And now you have this. It's just it's not really looking good. It's childish in a way. The UCI needs to step up, needs to have a plan, show it up, and then we have at least some sort of security and some sort of you know idea of where we're going to, because at this point we don't know.
Well, you might think listening to this that there's only bad news in the cyclocross world. Luckily, there's still some companies that are actually investing in cyclocross, and one of them is the X2O Badkamer Trofee, which is the new name of the DVV Trofee, and that's something that we look to be going for sure. Of course, we're still dependent on the rules of the Belgian government, but Golazzo, who organize all the races of the X2O Badkamers Trofee, have said that all these races will go on, but of course, if Belgium goes into a lockdown, not a chance that these races are going through, but at least it's something to be a little bit optimistic about.
Yeah, look, yeah. I mean, it's very good news for the DVV, or the former DVV Trofee, which is now going to be the X2O Badkamers Trofee. It's very good news that they have found a new sponsor. Let's just hope that they can stick around for a while, and that the organization stays healthy. And it's good news indeed that in these worrying times they take the risks to organize such an event.
Indeed, the only small point of notice that I have is that the organizers of the trophy are still the same as when it was Gazette van Antwerpen or B Postbank. It had these names for quite a few years, and then it got changed to DVV Trofee. DVV Trofee finally looks to have set themselves a name. It's a DVV Trofee. I think this would have been their 4th season, and now it changes again. I mean, marketing-wise, it's a bit confusing, but on the other hand, we should be happy that there's sponsors. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that they shouldn't sponsor, but especially the women's trophy that has been renamed so many times. It has been the IJsboerke Ladies Trophy, and it's losing a bit of its identity. That's what I think, at least.
Yeah, I have to agree. Like in the beginning, I think it was the Gazette van Antwerpen Trofee. That was like the former, the predecessor, and then it went, of course, to now in the end with the DVV. DVV is really, we started to get used to it with the DVV Trofee, and you can even hear it from our point that we can say it so easily. And this X2O Badkamers Trofee, it's going to be a struggle to remember that, but we will try our best to mention it the correct way.
And in the end, probably another thing we will struggle with is Telenet Fidea. I mean, it's already not Telenet Fidea anymore. It's Telenet Baloise, but Telenet, after such a long sponsorship deal with the team, it comes to an end. Cancelled, not from the sponsor side. It was already announced earlier, but written in the stars. They found a new sponsor, and they will be called the Baloise Trek Lions. Not a surprise, is it?
No, it isn't. And Trek, when they stepped in, they really showed that they really want to make a name in the cyclocross. And I think next year is going to be their start of having their cyclocross team at the top, I guess. It's very good for the sport that such a bike manufacturer wants to be involved in such a way. Let's hope for them that they can. They already have, of course, a good team, but that they can grow that team even more and be very successful.
Don't forget, they're linking their name to a couple of young and exciting talents like Thibaut Nys and Shirin van Anrooy. I think Trek will not regret this decision.
Of course, a team with vision. Of course, they know what they're doing. They have their talents, and they are. I think they're really committed, and that's a really good thing to see. That you have a sponsor that's really committed to the task and really wants to grow in the sports. And I wish them all the best.
And that then wraps it up for this episode. Well, thank you guys for listening to this episode, and thank you to Issam for joining me.
Yeah, no worries.
Next up this weekend is the Super Prestige of Ruddervoorde, which we will probably be taking a look ahead at, but I'm not too sure on that if we will be actually doing that. Anyway, stay tuned. Don't forget to leave a rating if you enjoyed this, and then I will see you guys next time. Goodbye.
Bye.